things that come in the way of our thinking process. And those are, is it doable? Is it possible? And what could be the problems that I'm coming up with a vision statement such as this? Is this even translatable? Sometimes it might even seem unreal. Like when we all know about the whole Apple's CEO, Steve Jobs, when he came up with a handheld smartphone device that can probably let you surf, that can let you check your emails, that can let you schedule things, name the apps today. He envisioned that all in this tiny cell phone, something that was unheard of. Cell phones had just come into the picture, but all of that on your phone, because we had like big computers, nothing this small. But this is someone's vision. So therefore, do not worry about the the actual translatable part of it. Write it from that place of, and that place of, and when I say that place of what, whether it's the purpose or it is the value driven thing, we're going to discuss that a little later. But when you're writing, first catch yourselves as to what are some of the prejudices and the preconceptions that you have about it. Now, when I say preconceptions and prejudices, I just wanted to give you an example. There was this mentee who went to a mentor, and he said, I need to get, the wisdom. You keep imparting this wisdom to everybody, and I need that wisdom. He says, look, can you see the front in the lobby? I mean, I've got a lot of people, and I don't know how successful I'm going to be with, being able to give you an appointment or talk to you or do all of that, and it cannot be all done right this minute. So I tell you what, why don't you give me some background of yourselves? So if you could write to me, in a few sheets, a little bit about yourselves, it'll be very helpful for me to do this. So this guy goes home, and then he writes, a small tiny booklet, maybe about 4 or 5 pages he writes, and then he brings it back to this mentor guy, and he says, look, this is my letter of introduction of who I am, where do I come from, what is my background, what is my education, all the details. He says, well, buddy, I don't know if I have the time for this, to read even your granted 5-page booklet, but I don't have the time. As you can see, I have a lot of people, I have a lot of things to attend to. Why don't you reduce this a bit? So he reduces it and makes it half of it, and then he goes the following day and he says, it's only 2.5 pages, sir. Here you go. He says, you know what, I still don't have the time, buddy. Could you reduce it a bit? And then he thinks, and this is the hardest, making a 5-page into 2.5 itself was like, it's very excruciating, because you were trying to, make every word as valuable, as sensible, because you are now trying to repeat. You don't want to repeat yourselves. You want to make it full of, loaded with value, that even if he reads a few sentences, he should know about you. Then he says, okay, I'm going to make it into 1 page. And he says, sir, I have 1 page, sir. I've been able to successfully do it. This person's feeling all accomplished, that, oh, I crystallized my entire background into this 1 page, and here I am. Fine. That worked out. Now what happens? He says, I don't have time for this 1 page. Then he goes back and again does all the homework. This time it's been rigorous. He makes it into 1 paragraph. And then he comes back to him, and then he says, well, I don't have time for this 1 paragraph. Then he says, could you make it lesser than that? So he writes 1 line. This is the most amazing. At this stage, we would be more than happy and say, hey, here's our vision statement. It's this 1 line, and we could use it. But then what I'm trying to say is, since we're talking about, getting rid of prejudices and stuff, and our, prior thinking, the mentor says, look, I don't have time even for 1 line. He says, that's it, I give up, the mentee says. I have nothing to say about myself, just give me wisdom. And so the mentor says, I think you're ready for it now. Because I wanted to know what are things that you are bringing in already by your thinking, by the different things that you've learned, acquired, someone came and told it to you, and, and developed so many prejudices and preconceptions about it, which could be, you think is favorable in your introduction to me, but they could come in the way of whatever that I'm planning to tell you, because they may pose obstacles. They may pose barriers. They may pose hindrances. So let's start, as a blank slate. So what we're trying to say is, when you're doing the vision, don't worry so much about how it's going to happen. Is it possible? Is there going to be governmental regulations and all of that? As long as you know that it's purposeful, go ahead and write that vision statement. You'll find that as a very interesting experience, because it's an essence of what you want to do. And then automatically you will come up with ideas of the mission. So this was the purpose of what we were trying to speak for the last so many minutes to get to this place.